Welcome to the Shift Report, the podcast from Mcentric and the Mcentric Foundation. Mcentric is the go-to information and resources hub designed exclusively for the emergency medicine community. We regularly host key leaders from the field who share their insights and experience. Our goal is to inform our listeners and to encourage you to use what you learn to improve your practice and improve yourself. To learn more, please visit us at mcentric.org. Today's episode is sponsored by Lotus Clinician Wellbeing. Lotus Clinician Wellbeing provides consulting services designed to prioritize clinician wellness in order to provide the best care for their patients. Lotus Clinician Wellbeing supports healthcare professionals with personalized coaching and consulting services for groups and individuals in areas such as career development, leadership, burnout prevention, practice management, and more. For more information, visit lotusclinicianwellbeing.com. Today, we welcome Nick Stark and Zaid Altawil. These two gentlemen hail from both coasts of the United States. Both are distinguished emergency physicians and innovators and are now co-directors of the Emergency Medicine Innovation Collaborative. This unique effort is seeking to democratize innovation in acute care. We've hosted a number of their innovation colleagues on the Shift Report and are now happy to have Dr. Stark and Altawil on today. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you. We're very happy to be on your podcast, Phil.
Great. Thanks. And thanks for joining us. And I had lots of interesting things to talk about. We've got both of you here and want to hear some interesting stories about innovation and innovators and hopefully provide some guidance to our colleagues who come up with interesting ideas and want to figure out how to bring them to reality. Tell us a little bit, just briefly, introduction about each of you, how you went from training and concentration and practice of emergency medicine, which you still do, into the innovation space.
So my name is Zaid Altawil. I'm a community emergency physician, specifically a nocturnist based out of Boston, self-proclaimed night owl. My innovation story really started in residency. I've always had an interest in everything, I guess, technology-wise, as it intersects with medicine. And in my third year of residency, one of my colleagues came up to me and was rambling on about a concept of a hackathon. And I was like, what's a hackathon? He's like, well, it's this marathon you get into where you come up with an idea in 24 hours, make a company, make a design, and hopefully get it into something that gets into people's hands. And I was super interested in the idea. And together we started the first emergency medicine hackathon, or hackathon in emergency medicine, back in 2018. That sort of got the gears working for me. That was boosted later on with the COVID pandemic, as a lot of people's alternative careers had. And I started working with a lot of people in the hospital to shore up a lot of the logistical and supply chain challenges that were happening. I found my niche there in the hospital to be, how do you get supplies that were previously done by medical manufacturers through alternative means? You know, how do we make gowns from people who used to make aprons? Or how do you 3D print pieces of equipment that are on back order so that the machines in the hospital keep going? This further expounded my passion in innovation. And from there, I set on like my path of how do I integrate my clinical practice with how do you create things that emergency physicians can use to better patient care. That's sort of how I got intersected with Nick Stark, one of our mentors, or well, my mentor was giving a lecture that Nick attended. And Nick was going through sort of a similar pathway. And he's like, hey, you two sort of are birds of a feather. You should definitely talk to each other. And I'll let Nick take it from there.
Thanks a lot for having us, Till. And it's great to be here. My name's Nick Stark. I'm also an emergency physician. I work clinically both in the academic and community spheres. So I work at University of California, San Francisco, and in the community at Mercy Medical Center, Merced in the Central Valley. I got both my MD and MBA degrees prior to going into residency with an eye on clinical leadership and helping lead health systems. And then that evolved to include a passion for innovation and applying things like design thinking and rapid cycle optimization to help make our healthcare systems more agile and more more adept at evolving to change. So my innovation track really also began during residency. I got connected with one of my mentors, Toph Peabody at UCSF. He helped start our acute care innovation center there. And that started me on this path of really looking at how do we try to help our health systems move faster and think more innovative. So I've since founded an innovation center at my community hospital, and we focus a lot on digital innovations that improve ED operations and flow. And then again, like Zaid was mentioning, came together with him to found the EM Innovation Collaborative back in 2021.
That's great, and you've both gotten to this in somewhat similar but occasionally different paths, and are thinking of ways to do new things, and also helping people to bring new ideas to reality. I ran across you, for everybody's awareness, at the ASET Scientific Assembly, where the Innovation Collaborative was hosting an event, a bit of an unusual event for the exhibit floor, where innovators were pitching and talking about what they had done. Tell us about the collaborative and what it does and what it's seeking to do.
Yeah, so like Zaid was mentioning, we started the EM Innovation Collaborative back in 2021, really with the vision of helping democratize innovation in emergency medicine. The the way that we started was kind of interesting. It was in really the throes of the pandemic, and I had attended a lecture by one of our now executive advisors, Willie Baker, at a conference, and I reached out to him after hearing about the way that his site was working with MIT during the pandemic, to develop some innovative ways to help make patient care better. He thought that what we were doing at UCSF and him in Boston at the time really aligned well. So I talked with my mentor, Toph Peabody, and we thought we'd just get the groups together. So we met on a Zoom call similar to this and ultimately had this aha moment of, wow, we are really both reinventing the same wheels, going through the same problems, having the same challenges on different coasts. And how much easier would life have been had we connected pre-pandemic as far as developing innovative solutions to a lot of the challenges that we were facing? So that was really our aha moment of there has to be some type of way to bring these innovative minds together across coasts, across practice settings, to really make innovation more accessible and help connect people. So that's what we do. We try to both demystify the innovation process through things like education and resources, and then also empower people to be agents of change by doing things like facilitating collaboration and creating opportunities.
So we throw around the word innovation, which probably has multiple meanings to multiple people. Tell us about innovation. Innovation is an interesting word that gets thrown around in many contexts. And tell us what it means to you and how it applies here.
Excellent question, Till. And this is a question we get a lot. So in its most basic form, innovation is identifying a problem, identifying that that problem is something that you face, but also others around you face, and coming up with a creative way to solve that problem. I think an archetype for what innovation is in a popular culture form is MacGyver, right? Somebody who faces a lot of problems, and I think we're dating ourselves here with the MacGyver term, but somebody
We are. That's okay. I know what you mean.
somebody who finds a problem and then comes up with unique and different ways to solve them. The solutions can sometimes be thought of as outside the box, but can also be thought of as traditional solutions as well. But it's really, how do you apply a specific process to solve that problem? Meaning, going at it in a way that is both structured, but allowing for creativity and for out-of-the-box thinking. I have a solution I have a problem X, for example. Let's say we're going to go outside the realm of medicine. My toilet keeps clogging up, right? Um, I identify that other people have similar problems with their toilets. What is a very quick and easy solution to this? Is it something that I can fix with materials I have lying around the house? Let's try that. You try it. Oh, maybe this could work better if I add this little device. Let's go back to the drawing board and apply this new modification. And then repeating this process multiple times with further increments of improvement till you get something that is a well-formed solution that's specific to this problem and that can be applied by everybody. This is the crux of innovation. It's a bit different than research in the sense of the way you arrive at solutions are a bit more sort of indirect and encouraging a divergent thought process. But it's similar in that you're using a lot of data that you're backing it up, right? The Mythbusters crew famously say, the difference between science and messing around is writing it down. So, how to have a structured way to solve a problem with a creative solution. Innovation can mean things on a small scale, as in the ED, like, hey, I noticed that the way that we talk to patients after their loved ones pass can use some improvement. Okay, these are the steps I'm going to do on a personal level. These are different ways I'm going to approach the problem every time and see what works better. In addition to, let me look on the internet and see if anybody has talked about it and studied it. Beyond your personal level, this is, for example, this is a problem that is faced by a lot of emergency physicians everywhere in terms of a device that's lacking. Okay, let me try to come up with a device that in an incremental fashion is improved so that it can be applied by everybody around me, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, that's great. And I've had the pleasure of meeting a number of innovators with whom we've worked over the last few months and interviewed some of them. And they all have fascinating stories that really speak to identifying a problem and trying to figure out a solution and then seeing if that solution can become something that's more generalized. Tell us a few examples of those sorts of innovators, and in that, let's explore a bit what the collaborative aims to do to help those innovators.
Yeah, that's a great thought and question, Till. I think one of my favorite things about the Innovation Collaborative are the people that we've gotten to meet. Like Zaid was mentioning, with this innovation structure and mindset and what that actually is, there is a huge gap between identifying a problem, which we're all really good at on shift, and then developing a solution that has product market fit and is scalable and profitable. And that's where a lot of people get stuck. But there are some really creative, innovative emergency docs out there that are doing some incredible stuff. We've got Kevin Spencer with Ring Rescue, for example, rethinking how do we think about ring removal. We've got Liz Claiborne with NasaClip, thinking about how do we address epistaxis in the emergency department. So many folks working on so many different pain points that can really be addressed, but requires not just identifying a problem, but then working toward a solution, which tends to take a lot longer and need a lot more input and time and energy than we tend to think about. So I think one of the big things that we're trying to do with the Innovation Collaborative in that sphere is to help demystify that process, this big black box of, okay, I've identified a problem. Now what do I do? So part of what we're working on with the collaborative is creating resources. So, for example, we've got a fellowship program that takes a trainee every year and works them through not just how to think about structures like design thinking and rapid cycle optimization, but also puts them in charge of a project so that they're able to gain some real world experience and get mentorship from leaders that are innovating and creating really interesting things. We've also got our member hub on our website that includes innovation master classes where you can hear from experts on everything from clinical need finding and business model design to scaling to pitching. and a startup launch pad, angel investing resources. So it's one of the things we're trying to do most intentionally is really demystify that process. It can be a bit of a black box and pretty intimidating, and we're trying to lower that threshold a little bit by giving folks some resources.
And to add to that, Till, to the great words that Nick said about what we do, if I could describe sort of the goal of the EMIC in 2 words is, I think, at least in my mind, how I understand it, is combating isolation. The one of your podcast guests from before, Elizabeth Claiborne, on another podcast that I heard her give, or another episode she was on with another podcaster, she mentioned that her journey was incredibly isolating, particularly coming in as a physician. She had this problem that she was trying to solve, and she was solving it, but nobody around her really understood what she was doing or why. Her fellow physicians, sure, they can understand, yeah, I'm trying to invent a device to help with epistaxis, but they don't really understand how hard it is to actually undertake that process. And on the other end of it, as a physician trying to innovate, you're the odd duck. It's a landscape that is populated by engineers, software developers, venture capitalists with experience in different domains, that you're frequently the only person in the room with a medical background. So you can always feel like, hey, I don't fit in. You are always saddled with imposter syndrome. So EMIC just wants to break that down. The biggest impact that we've had when we've spoken to people is just being able to recognize that we know what you're going through. The smile you see on their faces and the relief they kind of experience, you can tell that they've wanted to speak to a fellow physician that gets it. And that's primarily what we're there for. Things that we do in that vein are, hey, you might not know this, but there's actually hundreds of people, other physicians like you. Let's connect you to them. Or, hey, I know you've tried to look into how to solve this particular challenge that you're facing, for example, getting money for what you're trying to do, or thinking about patents, or thinking about FDA clearance, and you've been trying to weed through all these resources that are not tailored to you. Let us connect you to somebody who's been through that before. Let's give you a creative outlet, so like our hackathons or our pitch competitions, where you can actually, in a low stakes environment, talk to physician investors, show them your product, have them tear it down for you, and tell you all the reasons why it won't work. But afterwards, we'll come and tell you, hey, great job. I think you're on the right track. Keep it going. And that's what we do.
That's a great discussion of what you do at the collaborative. And I will add links to the podcast, particularly the 2 people you mentioned who are great role models and examples of this, each in a somewhat different way. Liz Claiborne identifying something that's incredibly simple. We see all the time, nosebleeds, which patients don't handle very well, and trying to invent a device that is amazingly simple that solves the problem. And then, but trying to turn it from a good idea, solving a real problem, to something that's actually marketable, and getting funding for it. So a great story there. And then Kevin Spencer with the ring rescue, something we've all struggled with for years, getting, soft gold rings off. That's easy. Getting the harder ones off. We've all heard horror stories. Kevin has approached the way to fix that. He has the advantage of coming from an engineering background, but that didn't necessarily make it easy. And so, you mentioned a number of things, FDA clearance and sort of nuts and bolts things that people have no idea how to do. And then the idea of imposter syndrome of, I can't do this because I'm not skilled enough and I'm an imposter in this space, is very important for innovators to hear. If I'm an innovator and I see some problem in my emergency department, a procedure that I don't have the right instrument for, or a information flow problem that I think I know how to code something for, but I don't quite have the resources for it. How do I come to you and get guidance, and how do I learn about this from you?
So I will say that the very best thing you can do, first of all, is, and I can't stress this enough, write it down. We are surrounded and smothered and flooded with problems every day, and we just need to be able to see them. So, as somebody who's thinking about innovation, first thing you could do before reaching out to us is just write it down. The second thing to do is talk to your colleagues. Be like, hey, isn't it so painful how we have to irrigate open wounds and try to make concoctions of saline and betadine and so on and so forth? Or isn't it terrible how our workspaces are very cluttered and every day you come on shift, you spend 10 minutes trying to clear everything out and put a bunch of wires out of the way and get a couple of rubber bands to shore up your dictation accessory. So write it down, talk to your colleagues. And then if you see that you're onto something, if you have a lot of your colleagues saying, hey, yeah, this totally sucks, or I totally get it, look it up. You know, maybe somebody else has thought about this before. Maybe somebody else is doing that, has solved that problem. And if they have, honestly, that's the best thing in the world. Great. You have a problem, you found a solution, you saved yourself 5 to 10 years worth of work. But if not, then maybe you got something going on there. Okay. You can join us as a member. It's completely free. The whole spirit of the EMIC is to be able to be a resource for everybody out there. And then shoot us an email. Nick and I are on LinkedIn. All of our team members are on LinkedIn and on other forms of social media. Just reach out, be like, hey, like I have this problem and I really don't know how to go about solving it, but I would like to, and I have the interest. And then we can work with you to give you the mentorship to take it from there. If you don't want to reach out to us and you want to do it on your own, start thinking about, what makes this problem a problem and start to break down some of the ways that you could solve it. I encourage you to reach out to us though, because you can benefit from all of our mistakes and the mistakes of others like us and hopefully get you there faster.
And to tag on to what Zaid's saying too, I think you don't even need necessarily a problem to reach out to us. If what we're talking about sounds interesting, if you like this concept of thinking outside the box, connecting with folks around the country and the world, to talk about really interesting things that are happening in emergency medicine and in ways that we're finding creative solutions to difficult problems. The EM Innovation Collaborative is a great space for that. We're always looking to grow our leadership team, and we've got our annual fellowship program as well. So there are a lot of ways to get involved, even if you're not at the stage of, hey, I have X problem, I've scoped it out, I want to start developing a solution, I need some help. And we're available 24/7 at eminnovationcollaborative.org. So go ahead and swing over there. We'd love to have you join us and connect.
This is itself an innovation where the two of you and your colleagues, and it's beyond the two of you, it's now a substantial organization. The two of you identified a gap and an issue and set about to try to figure out a way to fill that gap and solve that problem, which is innovators who need a connection space, need some resources, need a friendly ear, and some guidance sometimes on how something can work better, how maybe it's not going to work, but something different can work. And I would encourage all listeners to reach out, as Nick said, to the EM Innovation Collaborative. Zaid?
I do have a couple of thoughts also for people. I know a lot of things we mentioned were a lot of like how do you create a device or a workflow to solve problems, but there are other ways that you can get involved in the process as well. There's a lot of physicians that are later in their career and they're like, hey, maybe I want to do something to help combat burnout, something on the side. Perhaps I can consult for companies. We can definitely help you sort of wrap your head around how to get started with that process, how to provide your long-term experience that you've worked very hard on to benefit other companies. One of the biggest issues that a lot of healthcare-related companies face is that they're frequently not, they don't have physicians in leadership positions. And I think this is that's the detriment of the healthcare space. By having physicians in space, you're more likely to, in your executive team, for example, you're more likely to have interventions that are impactful, can actually help patients as opposed to help customers. So if you're a physician that thinks, hey, I think I could be a great chief medical officer. I have a lot of experience in healthcare administration and I want to do that. That's something that we can help you pursue. If you want to consult for healthcare device companies and you don't know how to get into that, we can help you do that as well. So it really extends beyond just the direct, I want to be an inventor space as well.
This certainly ties to another issue that's a longer discussion for another day, which is wellness in emergency medicine, which is something that we and at the M-Centric Foundation are focusing on. And some of that is the need for emergency physicians in a busy clinical space to kind of expand beyond the pure clinical work and grow professionally, personally, and otherwise. And this is a great opportunity for them. So remind us again, you're both very accessible on LinkedIn, which I encourage people to log on to and use, and remind us again how to find you.
Yeah, you can find us 24/7 on the EM Innovation Collaborative website. The URL for that is eminnovationcollaborative.org. And there are a lot of resources accessible even before you sign up, but I do encourage folks to sign up as a member. It's free. That gets you into all of our additional content, things like a startup launch pad, angel investing 101, innovation master classes, and also helps connect you a little bit further with the community. But we'd love to see folks there. And at a lot of our upcoming events, we've got a lot of both virtual and in-person events at some of the larger national EM conferences. We do a lot of partnerships with groups like ASAP, SAEM, and we'd love to see you all both in person and virtually.
We also have an email. So EM Innovation Collaborative at gmail.com if you prefer traditional email. We have our page on LinkedIn. So aside from Nick and I's personal LinkedIn pages that we're happy to respond to, there's the EM Innovation Collaborative LinkedIn. We're on Instagram as well, EMI Collab. And did I cover all of the outlets, Nick?
I think so. Not on TikTok yet.
Not on TikTok yet.
That's
Soon,
great.
soon.
That's great. I'm sure there's more to come in the future, and we look forward to talking with you again and sharing stories about collaborators. So Nick Stark and Zaid Altawil, thank you very much for joining us today and sharing some really interesting news about innovation in emergency medicine.
Thanks for having us, Till. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much for having us. We love talking innovation, and we're so happy you had us on.
Great. And thank you for joining us in this installment of our M-Centric podcast series, The Shift Report. And special thanks to Dr. Nick Stark and Dr. Zaid Altawil for sharing their important insights. For more content, networking, and innovation in the world of emergency medicine, please visit mcentric.org.